Hey Health Seekers, it's Kate Shemirani here, natural nurse in a toxic world. And today we've had Matt Hancock in the UK make another crazy announcement. And before I go into that, I want to read you something from a book. And I wanted to keep it in your forefront of your mind as I read it. And then we'll read it again at the end as I read out about Matt Hancock. And put some kind of thoughts on it and some rational thinking. So let me read this to you. The trick that has been played on society so successfully throughout history by the power elite is to create a massive cultural subconscious of primal fear. Fear takes us out of our space of reason and compassion and destroys our intellectual process, rendering us preoccupied with survival mode. Those who do not use their God-given power of objective intellectual reasoning are controlled by the vagrancies of an undisciplined mind and are at the whim of whatever propaganda is convenient to be pushed on them. Now, if you think back to 9/11, at the time, I only had one child, a little boy, and I'd not long finished working for an airline. British Airways was the world's favourite airline, as crew. And during that time, I learned a lot about aircrafts when we did our safety and emergency procedures. But when Twin Towers came down and we saw it concertinaing down like a sandwich, little puffs of smoke, boom, 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 boom. And fire crew actually did report later that they heard it. The whole story of two kamikaze pilots flying into it and then nothing being left other than dust, a phone dial and a bandana of a hijacker is complete bull. And this is what was really interesting for me. Jet fuel doesn't burn any higher than 1800 degrees Fahrenheit. But to melt all the steel, you would need 2700 degrees Fahrenheit. And then days later, I think it was 5 days later, they were still measuring using NASA technology. They were still measuring, I think it was 1300 degrees at ground zero. So the aircraft had already gone down and everything had been pulverized. It hadn't fallen over, it had just literally concertinaed down. So we all know what that was. That was a controlled demolition using whatever they used to do it. So keep in your mind now, how many people believed that we were under attack, well, America was under attack from terrorists and everyone was going to die. And that then opened up the whole thing, the axis of evil, illegal wars and everything else. But what I'm talking about is keep that in the forefront of your mind and what I've said. So today, we had Matt Hancock saying that on June the 1st, they're going to announce some new rules. And one of those will be spot checks of these, whoever it will be, the police, going into people's homes to make sure that they're not sneaking out to work. Yeah, talk about a massive control on society, sneaking out to work. They've also announced that there's going to be 300 million of grants to local authorities paid to them to put in place ways to ease lockdown. Where's all this money coming from? You know, they've already said 10% of the population is going to be unemployed and now that's going to go into double figures. And so this money to ease lockdown. You know how you ease lockdown? You put your hand on your door handle, you open it and you go out. Because this is just a massive takeover for a load of garbage. And what he's announced today is that using the new tracking app, that if you come into contact with someone who's got that tracking app and they're sick, you also have got to self-isolate. So let's think about that for a minute. Using all my 35 years as a nurse, I want to think about that for a minute, because that would mean, so let's put it like this. I've seen a binman all sitting in their wagon, and I love my binman, I'm not saying that, but they all collect the bins, get back in the wagon, all shoulder to shoulder. We see all the police in their police vans, driving around, rocking up, all getting out. We can't, all of us be having public gatherings, all of us, but they all rock up. Loads of them, I've seen them at Hyde Park, loads of them. So let's just say that one person with the tracking app was in that crowd. Okay, and let's say there's 100 people in the crowd, and there's 100, 200 cops there. And that tracking person, the person with the tracking app, they've been in the supermarket as well. They've been on a bus, they've been everywhere. So that would mean if that was a highly infectious disease, and he wants you to self-isolate, Matt Hancock, even if you've got no symptoms, none whatsoever. So that would mean then that all of those cops, all of the people that were there, hundreds of people, have got to self-isolate. And that would also mean that, they're saying it doesn't show any symptoms, that everyone that they've been in contact with, or their family, that would work. And everyone that their family's been in touch with, it's like a domino effect. Technically, they would all have to self-isolate. They're not actually saying that. So there's more holes in this crap than a piece of Swiss cheese. Because if one person has to self-isolate that's been near that person that's using a tracking app, that means that that person who's self-isolating, it would have to be everybody that they came into contact with as well. If they're saying you've got to isolate for 14 days because you might then have the symptoms. Oh my word, get some common sense, people. It's ridiculous. It's so utterly ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. And if you can't see it for what it is, you've either got fluoride in your brain or some other entity's taken over your common sense. So it's just so ridiculous. If you can't see it for what it is, words fail me. Absolutely fail me. So hang on a minute, Matt Hancock, you big buffoon. If you're there in government, oh, and somebody comes near you and they've got the tracking app, that's you, the whole of government, and everyone else. I don't know how else to keep saying this. People, wake up. I'm going to now read it again for what it is. So, you know, in nursing, when somebody's sick, you barrier nurse them. If they've got something infectious, you barrier nurse them. You keep them isolated. Never, ever before do you keep everybody else that isn't sick isolated. You just don't do that. This is the first time. Scandemic, plandemic, utter baloney. And the only people that are allowing it to happen are us. Tyranny, it's not your tyrannical government that take over. It's the people allowing it. So what they're doing is they're literally drip feeding you bit by bit. First of all, it's going to be locked down for a couple of weeks. Now here we are in May. People are going bust. People are getting evicted. People are using food banks. India, Pakistan, people are starving. And we're still here. Businesses that fold here has a knock-on effect around the world. And this is not going to get any better. They're drip feeding you bit by bit. First of all, it's 10%. Now it's double figures. Then it was, it's going to take a few years to recover. Now it's going to take 10 years to recover to the taxpayer's expense. Now it may never recover. It's really not. This is just the beginning of something so horrific that is coming. And then you look at China. China's now using this thing, and they're even using it in schools to do facial recognition on the kids when they come in, and it checks their temperature. Boris Johnson, another buffoon, at the United Nations last year talked all about how we were going to have this smart technology that's going to be able to infiltrate every single piece of our lives. It's going to be able to see everything you do, everything you say, everything you look at. It is literally Big Brother in your house. It's literally like the TV program Big Brother. And then when you add in there the other stuff that I talk about, that electromagnetic radiation, then it all goes really horribly wrong. But if you're going to really fall for that, oh my word. So that whole stay 6 foot apart, that's facial recognition. They're putting the satellites up. They're putting all this into place. Every single lamppost has got this technology on it to watch and listen to everything you do. You won't even need to pass gas without the whole world knowing about it. I should say, you won't be able to pass gas without the whole world knowing about it. So I'm going to read that to you again, and you might see what I'm talking about. Because everyone thinks there's this great big pandemic that's going to kill everybody. We've all seen hospitals empty, dancing nurses. We've seen police rolling around, all of these people on full pay. Essential workers, and then everyone else is going bust. And then you see all the ones going down the road in their masks, sitting in their car on their own with their masks and gloves on. I mean, people, it's really sad. I can't imagine what it must feel like inside to be that frightened of the boogeyman, because we know that the chances of getting this and dying from it, what are they, less than 1%? They're so low. And people are actually dying from homicide, suicide. There's loads of child abuse, domestic violence. There's people dying because they can't get their hospital treatments. Meanwhile, the nurses are playing Connect 4 and cards and doing all their dance routines and dancing with mops on full pay, priority shopping, free coffees. Stop it. Getting food given to them as free parcels. Give it to the food banks. And then you've got these celebrities, like I said yesterday, using the furlough system. Shame on you, absolutely dirty dogs that you are, and there are people with nothing. Folks, wake up, shake yourselves. It's not going to kill you. This pandemic is not going to end the world. What's going to end the world is the 1% that yet again are trying to push this takeover. It's been done for a long, long time, and this one's been planned for a long time. Event 201, at the Johns Hopkins University, they were planning this, and they're going to use the media, and they're using the media, and you've got the BBC, the lying liars of lies, rolling out the propaganda, having that absolute genocidal maniac, Bill Gates, who said, you know, the final solution to this, who else used that one? That was used, wasn't it, in the 40s? The final solution is that we all have this vaccine and then we can get on with our lives. Things are never going to be the same as they were in January because they are totally crashing the economy. Remember, they tell you, they have to tell you. It's called a tacit agreement. They have to tell you what they're doing. The next wave will be fatal for the economy. Prepare for the next wave. The next wave of what? You're lying liars of lies. We've seen behind the curtain. We've seen you. Your mask's off. You're laughing at us. Well, get ready, because the people aren't that stupid. So let me read you that one thing again, because it was great when I read it. The trick that has been played on society so successfully throughout history by the power elite, that's your 1%, is to create a massive cultural subconscious of primal fear. Fear takes us out of our space of reason and compassion and destroys our intellectual process, rendering us preoccupied with survival mode. Those who do not use their God-given power of objective intellectual reasoning are controlled by the vagrancies of an undisciplined mind and are at the whim of whatever propaganda is convenient to be pushed at them. Well, I've been using my objective intellectual mind, but when I see you driving in your car with your masks and gloves on, come on, folks. I don't know what else to say, but if you know me and I find out you've got a tracking app and you've come anywhere near me or my kids, I'm not going to be well pleased. Don't get a tracking app and be near me. If you're following me on Facebook or on Twitter or Instagram or Brighty on a BitChute, and you've got a tracking app, ship out. I'm not interested. I don't know you. I really don't know you. Because your lunacy of not taking control of your mind and watching the propaganda, lying lies of lies, coming out of that idiot's lantern in the corner of your living room and reading those rags called the media, the Ofcom, another group of lying lies of lies. If you're watching all that, your ignorance is going to be responsible for the rest of us who are awake's downfall. And you will be held accountable. And for everyone else, all of you that can see it going on, all of you that know the truth, cops, nurses, whoever you are, even you that are erecting those cell towers, if you know, you're complicit. You're complicit in it. Go and read the Nuremberg Act. And as for all of these things that are being perpetrated on the people, genocide has no time limit, and you will be found and you will be tried in a court of law. Because I am a Christian, and the one thing I know is for every force there will be an equal and opposing force. That is all evil and wrongdoing. And the people are waking up. And when this all gets exposed, if you're complicit, you're going to be held accountable. And for the rest of us, please, all of you, wake up. Tracking app my ASS. Do not get it. And folks, remember, you know, I like choice. If you're going to say yes to any of these things that they want to inject into you, make sure you know every single ingredient, every single effect that has on your body or your children's bodies. Remember, the pharma company's not accountable. Ask, make sure you know before you do it. And remember, it's had a lot of safety corners cut because Bill Gates said that. I'm going to have to cut some safety corners to make this vaccine. Honestly, it's like a bad show, and there's no ice cream and popcorn in the middle. Have a good day, and remember, and you know what else? If you're a cop and you're going to go house to house with these new plans being unveiled on June the 1st to check if people are staying in and not going out when they're not meant to be, or when they've been on holiday, you are citizens in uniform, there to protect us, the public, not the tyrannical government with all this rubbish. You need to think about your orders and what you're doing because you think you're getting paid. Oh, I'm getting paid, I was just following orders. Because if this is all what I think it is, and what a lot of us know it is, you're going to be surplus to requirements as well, really quickly. And it's going to be written in the policies for your job that you're going to have that vax. And that's not something I would ever want in my body. But it might be a case of you've got to have it for your job. So you might want to start following me, because I'm going to be publishing all of what's in that and telling you what every single one of those ingredients does. Just think about that. You know, we're not your enemy. We're the people, like you. Have a good day.